It's so great to meet all of you. Please, if you're able to put your name in the bottom, it helps me to be able to talk to you guys and identify you. If it becomes difficult, don't worry about it. And guide me through saying your names correctly. I apologize if I don't pronounce them the way I should. Just help me out and I will try and learn them, okay? So it is really great to be here, actually. It's very cool. I'm very passionate about art. Today, I think you saw in your packets, we're gonna talk about Vincent van Gogh and his art. I don't know if you are, you've seen his work a lot, but there's one painting that I'm sure you guys have seen. So I'm just gonna share my screen for a second, because that one you've seen everywhere, from posters to mugs to t-shirts to everything around you, okay? We've seen this, and this is called Starry Night. And as you can tell, there are extremely, there's a lot of movement. The light gives you movement, the air gives you movement, it gives you a time and a space. The brush strokes are extremely thick. As you can tell, they're very, very big. And the paint is very thick. If we go in a little bit, you can see how thick the paint and everything is. So this is because this technique is called impasto. So impasto, he used to work with oil pastels. Impasto is a technique that actually adds a certain thickener for their paint, and it becomes a paste. So artists, instead of working with brushes like we would usually use and work with, they work, so I have these, we're gonna work with the regular knife, but so they usually work this kind of thing, okay? So little spatulas that they work with along the way, and this is usually what artists will use for this kind of work. We're gonna be using our plastic knives, okay? But if you have a kitchen spatula that feels comfortable to make cakes or something like that you guys wanna try out, go for it, okay? Now, in general, I'm gonna be walking you guys through this. As we go through it, I want you guys to enjoy. Grab one of your favorite beverages. If you guys wanna put music on and just put yourself in mute, I would appreciate that. And please unmute yourselves any moment, any time. If you wanna ask something or you're not sure, or if I'm going too fast, go ahead. Okay, a lot of people call me B instead of Belen, which is fine. Don't worry about it. I know it's sometimes a little difficult to pronounce, and it's okay. Also, I will give you information along the way. The idea is not to saturate you, but to make it fun and for you guys to enjoy. And something that we tell the kids that we work with in Doodle is that there are no mistakes in art. And you guys, I know when we get older, we start looking things in a different way, and the tree has to be green, you know, and the sky has to be blue, and the sun has to be yellow. And who says? So we want you guys to go deep into that artistic side of you, explore it, have fun. Honestly, there are no mistakes in art. Sometimes we make a mistake and then we see, actually, it works. It looks better than I thought it would if I see it with different eyes. So go for it, okay? And last but not least, okay, I think we have somebody else joining us.
They've already joined us.
Okay, perfect. But last but not least, have fun, okay? You guys want to take a snack through it and have fun. Just create your little bubble of happiness, okay? And I'll be right here along the way sharing. Now, so just to give you guys the ideas, for the paint, you guys have your set of acrylics. Acrylics tend to stain. So if you have long sleeves, let's pull them up, okay? Acrylics will not come off your clothes. you guys have a little baggie of flour. This is not craziness. We're just making it thick for the impasto, okay? We might use a little bit of water, not necessarily, but have it ready if you guys want. Have some paper towels so we can clean brushes or our knife along the way. So you can have, like I said, a knife. If you have a kitchen spatula that you guys enjoy and like and is small and you would like to use it, go for it. You can wash it afterwards. Popsicle sticks is also good. We have brushes, okay, along the way that we might use. Little containers, lids, or a paper plate so we can mix the colors, okay? Now, what I like about the little lid containers is it has this lip. So while we mix, everything doesn't go flying, especially since we're gonna be using flour, okay? But don't be afraid of it. And last but not least, we have our canvas boards, okay? So you guys are gonna be working on canvas board. I already did my sample on canvas board, so I'll be working on paper. Don't worry about it, okay? And hopefully you guys will have a lot of fun working with Impasto and working with Van Gogh. So today we're gonna base ourselves on the wheat fields, okay? For Van Gogh. So the idea is to play around with what we were seeing. I'll show it again now that we have more people on, about the sound and the music in the sky, how that movement makes it feels like there's air. We can feel inside there, right? We can see the greenery move because of the movement we have in the air. And you're gonna see the different layers of the tones of one color and how it gives you depth and definition, okay? And we're gonna be mixing around colors and having fun. Having said that, there are no mistakes in art, you guys. And we play around with this sample also with little kids. And we sometimes do just grass and do different skies that they can enjoy. Sometimes we have added dots and it looks like petal flowers that are flying into the air that you guys can play with, okay? One way or the other. The idea is that it doesn't have to look like mine. I expect it to look like yours. And if you guys want the grass to be pink and the sky to be gray, go for it, okay? Have fun. So I'm gonna change my camera. But before I do, I'm just gonna show you a few pictures, okay? So for the impasto, you guys, like I said, the impasto is a mix of thickeners with the oil paints. So they work with spatulas. They don't work with brushes, okay? So as you can tell, they're very thick. They're very strong strokes, okay? And the movement that we see in the sky is part of the idea because they're trying to transmit time. So it gives you a time frame. This is one of my favorites actually from him. I know the other one is more famous. This one, Starry Night, is in MoMA in New York, in the Modern Museum of Art. This one is in France, but it's a Starry Night on the Rhone River. You can still, there's no definition, no exact picture, but by the little strokes that you have, you know, a little circle with some lines out, and you can tell that it's stars. What we're working today, what I based myself on was this one about the wheat fields, and you can see again that movement but softer because it's a daylight. So that's another thing you guys want to think about. Is it going to be a daylight? Is it going to be a dark? Okay, the colors that you're going to mix and add to it will give you that effect and will tell what kind of day. Is it summer? Is it winter? Where are we going? Another famous one is the Café de Paris, but it's not in Paris. It's in, I don't remember. It's in France, but I'm trying to remember the town where it is. And you can still see that time, see that movement, the people moving. I was just reading an article about it and how I don't know if you know this, but Van Gogh is one of our most romantic ideas of torture artists, right? So his work was the last decade of his life, actually. Before that, he was a minister, and he went through different stages in life. So they were talking about how this area here in the center has actually an image of 12 people and a person with long hair. So they're talking about how it can relate to the Last Supper from Da Vinci. Scholars are still talking about it. We'll see what they come up with or what they find with the new techniques. He used to do still life a lot. So you guys might want, if you have something at home that you love, a vase or a reminder, a flower. Still life was one of the big ones for him. The sunflowers, I think, represents him a lot, how they look for the sun. And of course, I think we all know this one. So it's a self-portrait. He was famous for his self-portraits. There's several of them. Later on, I'll show you the ones that we can find here in Washington, D.C. And you can, when all this COVID craziness is over, you guys can get a chance to go see them. But this is after his cutting of the ear. So let me just move forward. And okay, so you guys, first when we see that, I'm gonna leave it around here for a little bit and then we can move it. So when we have an idea of what we're gonna do, what we're trying to do, let me move the camera. There you go, you guys see better there. The first thing that we're gonna do, and I forgot to say that, if you guys have a pencil, I would appreciate it. It would be awesome. It's just, you're not gonna draw anything big. What we're gonna do is a few simple lines to define the space. So one of the things we're gonna think about is our horizon line. Is it gonna be a straight line? Are you guys gonna be working with water? What kind of landscape, cityscape are you gonna do? Even if you do still life, you still have the edge of the table that it's gonna be in, or the surface that it's on, because it's not, it's gonna feel like it's floating on the air. So we're gonna have a horizon line. So is it like here, it goes up and it goes down. It doesn't have to be straight. You guys decide, okay? So let me take out this and let me work on the paper. So we can just make a few lines to kind of define where we're gonna have our base and where we're gonna have our sky and how big is one space independent the other. Another thing that we're gonna line up is, is it gonna be all metal, or are we gonna have some kind of space here where you have some dirt or you have some grass that is lower, or you have a path, okay? So if you guys wanna have a path, or you might want to just define it just a little bit, okay? Now, if your guys gonna have a path, we're gonna have to work a little bit on terms of perspective. If it's close to you, it's gonna be bigger. If it's far away, it's gonna be smaller, but it's exactly the same size, okay? So even on the street, if it's the closest part to you, it's gonna be bigger and wider. And the far away the path goes, the narrower it's gonna be, the smaller it's gonna be, okay? Same thing goes with trees. If we put a tree here, it's gonna be bigger. If we have a one in the back, it's gonna be smaller, okay? So if we want to add maybe some trees, just mark where you want them, how wide you would like the space for them to be. You're gonna go over it with paint, but it's just a way for us to define what kind of landscape you guys want. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to work on that. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know if you need anything. Another thing is maybe it's not a path, maybe it's a river that you guys have here, but the same will apply. The further you are from the stream, the bigger, the wider it's going to be. The further out, the narrow is going to be, okay?
These bigger green are tree, right?
Excuse me?
These big green is a tree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The more closer tree, it means?
So when it's closer to you, let me put it this way. Let me put it for you this way, okay? I'll just add a spotlight here. So I'm next to the other one, you guys can still see. So my hands are basically the same size, right? I know we all have one hand bigger than the other and one foot bigger than the other, but basically the same size. But in perspective, what happens is that whatever is closest to you is bigger and whatever is far away is smaller. So the further out I am out with the other hand, you see how the space, the size changes in our heads, how we see it, how we perceive it.
Yes.
So anything that's close to you is going to be big. Anything that's far away is going to be little, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I find that sometimes it's easier with seeing it instead of explaining it. Maybe I'm too visual for things, but. So while you guys work on that, and I'll give you a couple more minutes to do this part. I see you guys, some of you still have your cameras on, so I'm able to see that you're working. Let me know if you need anything, but just to let you know a little bit, I imagine you guys know Van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh is from the Netherlands. There's actually a museum in his name in Amsterdam with most of his work. He was never famous when he was alive. And that's why it became this image of the torture artist himself. He had psychological problems. He did cut his ear in he had an episode, and he was really good friends with Gogh, another great artist. And while he was here with him, he had an episode and he cut off his ear. That's why you see the images of him with the Band-Aid, that he actually depicted himself through that struggle. He died and he wasn't famous. And years later, people saw the artistic, the genius in his work. And that's when he became a big house. Decades after he died. And he actually produced around, I think it was 2,100 paintings in the last 10 years of his life, when we was an actual active artist. Of those, I think it was close to 900 paintings, 800 and some, were in the last 2 years. So he devoted himself completely into the images that he saw and that he wanted to transpire and give us. And most of those last few are the oil paintings that we know now. There's a lot of work in watercolors. People are still debating if they're his or not. There's sketches, there's drawings, amazing work, to be honest. Now, and he's one of the most influential figures in Western art to this day. So now that we got this, okay, I think we're good. Anybody Needs a few more minutes, or can we move along? What do you guys say? Okay, awesome. Yeah, you can always give me a thumbs up. That lets me know we're doing fine, okay? Okay, if not, let me know. So now that we have this, we're gonna start preparing, okay? So we're gonna be working through light to the darkest, okay? So we're gonna start with the sky on top, and we're gonna work ourselves on top of it, okay? So we're gonna start having fun with colors. So I would recommend put it away for a second, grab your paper plate or wherever you're gonna be working on. And take out some paint. So I know you guys have blues. Do you have two kinds of blues or just one kind of blue? Do you mind showing me what colors you got just to make sure? Okay, so take some blue out. Perfect. Take some blue out, okay? Don't be shy, because this is another thing with the impasto. You actually use a lot of the paint. It's not like oil pastels or other paintings that you use very little. You actually use a lot. We're gonna use white, okay? Now, if you have an accident like that, having paper helps out, okay? Now, if we use a little bit of green, we can work on those turquoise. If you guys want to go that way, if you guys thinking of a day kind of scenery, if you do add a little bit of green, I would go very little, very, very little, okay? And if you guys are working like a night sky and you want to go darker, I would say and recommend you can add a little bit of purple, okay? I don't know if you guys have purple. We can make purple if you don't. We also have black and white. We can do gray. Working with gray helps a lot sometimes. So I didn't want to have my gray ready. I wanted to have this. Because when we make gray, I recommend we use more white than black and start with a very low gray and work our way up. Making a lighter one is just gonna make it more difficult, okay? So it's better to be very, to go it slowly with the dark colors and work our way up, okay? So as you can tell, I had very little black and I had more white. So I'm just gonna add some gray here because I want you guys to see the effect it has on our colors. So how are we doing? We all good? Okay. So we're gonna grab a brush, and what I want you guys first to start exploring is a combination of colors, okay? So we're gonna need to have different colors of blues to work with, not just one tone. So I'm gonna separate my white into 3, okay? I'm putting them around, and I'm gonna leave a little bit of white there, original white, for when I need it. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm gonna grab some blue now, and I'm gonna mix it. I'm gonna see the white I come up with, okay? So I have a tone here that I enjoy. As you can see, we're gonna need to have like bunches of color, not just a little bit, but we need a lot of color. And I usually just roll like this, my brush, so I can clean it a little bit and leave a little bit of color there. I might want to grab some blue with some of the purple and try it out with a white and see what happens. I can always grab more. And you can see the color that's coming up. We have different tones now. If we add more white to those new colors that we're making, we can give it even more dimension to that sky that we're gonna work on, okay? What happens if I grab a little bit of blue, okay? And a teensy bit of green, maybe a little bit too much. Then, so what I want you guys to play with is the tones, the different kinds of colors of blues that you guys are gonna have and that you feel comfortable with, okay? We can always grab a little bit of gray and more white and make a second one or a third one out of that second one that we did. But every time we do that, what I recommend and what I ask is that you see we have quantity of color, okay? We can always make more. Don't be afraid to mix it. If you don't like it, grab another plate and start again. We can always add blue to gray and try it out, okay? What we're doing is just experimenting with the tones and varieties of colors and see how the dimension changes for it as we go along and add other colors. I think, to be honest, you don't need to watch it right now. You can just put it away on a piece of paper so it doesn't roll off and get on your carpet and I get in trouble with you guys. But basically, is just have fun with the colors. See where they get you. See what combinations. Sometimes we add gray or we add a little bit of something else and we're surprised to the color we end up with. As you can tell, I just want to make it closer. It's very thick. It's a lot of paint. And I just want you guys to have fun and enjoy.
For making new color, we don't need to clean the brush.
Not right now, no, because since we're working with blues, to be honest, the only thing I do is take off the excess paint like this. I roll it. And I just add. Okay, since we're working on the same tones and we're all are based on blue, it doesn't matter. If we were adding a red or an orange, then we would have an awful brown in there that maybe we don't want. So for all of you mommies out there, I know I have a couple of gentlemen. I apologize for that one, but if you're a mommy, you know, looking at the diapers is not pretty, right? And there's all kinds of shades in there. So we have to be very mindful of that one, okay? I see some smiles, so yes, you can all relate, right? Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a couple of minutes. Let me know when you're ready and we'll move along, okay? Because now it's gonna get fun. We're gonna start working on the impasto. Oh, let me just do that first and then we'll. So for the thickness of the paint, you guys, I don't know if you guys can tell there. It's extremely thick, okay? And you can see the texture on it. So for the thickness of it and the impasto itself, we're gonna do the kitty version, okay? We're gonna use flour And we're gonna drop flour on each one of our colors, okay? Each one of the colors we did, we're gonna drop some paint, not a lot. I'm just dropping it with my pinching some muscles, some pincer muscles here, adding a little bit of flour. Okay, and to be honest, I like flour where there's no paint, so I can grab as I go and as I see I need it, okay? Because this is where the fun starts, you guys. Now I'm gonna work on the sky, so I'm just gonna put it upside down so it's closer for you guys. You guys can work upside down, you can work sideways, however you want, make it more comfortable. Along the way, if you need to move your canvas, go for it, okay? I'm just trying to make it as close to the camera as I possibly can. So we have our knives, and what we're doing now is we're mixing that paint. Let me do it here close so you guys can see. If you can see, it's a little thick, so I'm just gonna grab with my brush, with my knife here, a little bit more of the gray or any color that I have nearby. And there, I'm getting a good consistency, like a very thick Greek yogurt kind of thing. And I'm gonna start working. So are you guys gonna wanna start with the movement? Are you guys wanna start, be careful if it falls a little bit. Don't worry if it falls, you can always go over it, okay? Now in spots like this, where I have, you can always use the edge of your plate to take off the excess paint. Where I have the trees and I'm going on top, it doesn't matter. I'm getting as close to it as I possibly can. And I'm going even on top of it, okay? But I am just grabbing colors. I am mixing them with my flour. I'm even changing them as I go along if I see I need to add a little bit more, okay? And it's too thick. Now, since I did a couple of boo-boos so far, but it's okay. I recommend if you can put your paper towel there, okay? There you go. So, do you want to do small strokes? That's another way to do it. Do you guys want to do a base color first in certain parts, and then do the strokes with the other colors? I mean, have fun with the spatula, have fun with the knife. Since we're making different colors and we have them all over, I recommend though that you spread them out in the sense of don't use all of the one of color that you made on one spot of your canvas. Use a little bit here, a little bit. Try to balance the colors that you have that you're making. So every time I grab a new color, so let's grab a new one so you guys see what I mean. So I'm making a new one here. I'm mixing the color with the flour. So what I mean is, instead of using all this, there's not going to be enough for everything I want to do, is I'm going to use some here and some here. And maybe some down here or up here, okay? I may come and grab and make another one. I can grab some of my gray, and you see how I use my knife to put colors around and make even new tones of the ones I'm working with. So I'm thinking the same way. I'm adding here, there, and I'm spreading it around so that there's some balance to it. It's not all the same tones in one spot, but we have tones that go back and forth throughout the picture to balance our style. Now, another thing that you guys need to think about is, you know how we do see the sunset, the closer it's to the horizon line, sometimes the darker we have the colors. And the far away we get, the lighter it gets. We'll talk about clouds later on, but right now, just have fun. Try out with your knife how those brush strokes, those strokes come about, how you feel more comfortable handling them. Use them to your advantage. How is your movement going to be? If you go into the deeper blues, how are you going to spread them out? If you guys are working upside down because it's closest to you, now and then grab it and look at it from another perspective. Look at it from afar. Sometimes the eye gets a little bit lazy and gets a little bit saturated. So if we stop and we look at it from a different perspective and we put it away a little bit, it helps us out in the way we see it, okay? I don't know if you guys have ever seen the tunnels where they test the wind on the models for buildings. But it's really amazing how you see the wind move. How when it hits something, it curls. Part of it curls down, part of it curls up, okay? So think about your movement. And how would you like that movement to be? If you think a spot is two of the same color, grab another one, grab a contrasting color and go for it and go on top of it. Or if it got too dark, that is something that is amazing with the acrylics and with this impasto. You can go with dark colors on top of light colors on top of dark colors. If we were working with acuarelas or something like that, we can't. So enjoy it that you have the freedom to play with the tones of color that you guys have, okay? And make the changes that feel more comfortable for you. So I'm gonna try this new color that I have here. It's too dark, so I'm gonna pull some of the gray that I have there. Make sure you grab your edges. The edges are sometimes the parts we forget a little bit. Okay. And just enjoy the colors, okay? And the movement. Now, as you can tell, I started with maybe 3 or 4 colors, and it just kept going and making new ones and new ones, okay? So use your knife, grab a little bit of one, a little bit of the other, grab a little bit of the flower, and see what happens. Do you like it enough? Do you want to make it darker or lighter? You can grab some of the other colors. And create a different tone or a different shade of a color. Maybe if I add a little green. I'm getting a teal, okay? So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes while I do that. I'm going to tell you a little bit. I'm going to show you guys the paintings that we have in here in DC from Vincent van Gogh. I hope you enjoy them, and hopefully we'll get to see them soon. The museums will start up again. So most of them are in the National Gallery, but we also have some in the Phillips collection, okay? Please let me know if you guys are doing okay. If you have any questions. We have his self-portrait. This is at the beginning. You can see the change, the difference from the last one I showed you. But the strokes and the movement is still there. And the thickness, you can feel the hair, you can feel the beard, you can feel the eyebrows. The groups are around his eyes. We have the lady in white. And you can feel all the background, but she's the one that shines, right? It's a beautiful painting that feels so much emotion. And you can also see the fabric, feel the fabric of her dress. We have La Muse, another portrait with a beautiful fabric. What shines here is her and her fabric. We have Farmhouse in Provence. You can see this. I think it's very interesting when you see the grass, the flowers. We can definitely see it and we can imagine it. But if we look close, they're just small strokes. Small strokes that give that finish, that illusion that we're looking for. And the roadman there, it's a beautiful painting where I think the trees have an amazing strength to them. So those are the paintings that hopefully we'll get to enjoy soon in person. I also hear there's going to be a 360 show of Van Gogh that's coming our way. I'm dying to see it. Hopefully we'll be able to. So how is everybody doing? Are we all good? Awesome, thank you. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions. If you need to go refill your drinks, go for it. Your snack, enjoy. White peas are a weight source, ma'am. They are amazing to help us out clean our heads. Now, as you can tell, you guys, remember we just did the idea where we want our trees right now. They're kind of took over by the paint, but it's okay. We kind of have the spot and the space where we want it and the proportion and the size. So that's going to help us out on the next step, okay? But I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to work on their skies. And we're going to have some fun with the clouds, okay? So, Miss Susan, how are you doing? Are you done with your sky? Okay, well, if you want to start just adding flour to a little bit, to some white, we're gonna work on our clouds. I'm just giving everybody until 7:20, so just one more minute, but you can start preparing your white if you would like. Now, for me, with Impressionism, you know, Van Gogh had different layers to him. He started with realism. If we see his sketches, they're extremely good. The lines, the perception, the depth of the space of the person that's pictured, of the still, when he does still paintings as well, the volume, everything, the light that comes in is really precise. But when we have Impressionism hitting the art scene, it was more about the feeling. It was more about the images. So we see with these strokes, they're not perfect. There's not the exact person, the exact shape, but sometimes our minds finish up the drawing for us, finish up that image. Van Gogh, these paintings, most of this area is from his Post-Impressionism. Now, Post-Impressionism is, it actually, how would we say, it's actually, he was, okay, let's back up a little bit. He was part of the avant-garde, so we all heard the stories, and La Vie en Rose, which is a beautiful song, we've heard it. So all these late 1800s, that so many artists moved down to Paris, and they started collaborating with each other. So when all of this happened, you have people like Monet with those romantic scenes that show us these images that as well are not perfect, but they have the proportion and they have the colors, and our body and our minds finish up the space and finish up the design, the drawing for us. We can see it, even though not every detail is there. There's a line of thinking that says that part of the Monet paintings and all of this Impressionism is basically that the first ones had, they were farsighted. They couldn't see well. I'm actually farsighted. So if I take off my contact lenses, that's how I see the world. I don't see the defined details. It's all blurry. So some of you wear glasses, I see. I think you can take off your glasses to kind of see what I'm saying. So Post-Impressionism took that a little bit further, and they were reacting a little bit. This avant-garde were reacting against this Impressionism. And you can see people like Paul Gauguin, Bernard, Van Gogh, that were reacting to all of that. But they took the strokes bigger, and they took the strokes stronger, and they gave it texture, okay? So that's just to give you guys a little bit of a background of all this. So everything in history, it's one reaction after another, okay? So we have the Dark Ages, we have the Enlightenment, and we keep going like this. It's part of our lives, I think. Okay, so same thing happens with art. Art creates all of this. So we have our white. We're gonna add some flour to our white. And you see, my knife is really, 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 really dirty. If you guys want, you can wash it with water. To be honest, I just go with, because they're basically the base from one another. So as long as you take off the excess of it, you're gonna be good. So with the white, with my clouds, I'm not gonna overdo it. I wanna be strategic to the movement, okay? So I don't know if you can tell, but I have a movement of light that comes here, and another one that reacts due to the trees that I have that comes in here. So what I'm gonna do is try to find those special spots that are gonna give me that movement without overcrowding what I'm trying to achieve and the colors and the movement that I was able to produce. So you see how when we added a little bit of those white clouds, our movement become a little bit stronger. We understand a little bit more what's happening in the sky. Nuran, welcome back. So I would say, don't overdo the white. Just think of those strategic spots, okay? Where you can feel the movement, where you can see the movement of that sky that you're doing. So going back to Impressionism and Post-Impressionism, Impressionism, you have that same feeling of the strokes that are not defined, but they're small. They're not as bold. They're not thick. They're very delicate. There's also an inclusion of movement, like that scene of Monet that's so famous, or the irises in the water. You can see the movement in the water. So they do work with movement as well, and the light, how the light hits everything. So it's very important. So postmodernism took it a little bit further, and they not only added texture, but they added these bold, big strokes that you can see even from far away. The inclusion of movement is stronger, as you can see in the skies, in the way they move, or that famous Gauguin painting where the ladies are dancing. So they just took it a little bit further. And basically these are the basis for modern modern art. They are the fathers of modern art. They're one of the foundations. One of my favorite quotes from Van Gogh is, "For my part, I know nothing with any certainty, but the sight of the stars makes me dream." I really like that quote from him a lot. You can see the dream in his skies, right? In the way he makes that sky, those stars, those clouds move. So now that we have that, you guys, it's gonna get a little bit more fun now, okay? We're gonna start with our greens. And we're gonna start with our horizon line. So just like we talked before, when you guys have your horizon line or something that's far away, tends to be darker. I don't know where you guys are situated, if you guys are all here in Virginia, but we can see the mountains, right? Far. And they look blue and dark. When we get closer, we see all that lush and green. So the farther we are and the closer we are to the horizon line, the darker our blues are gonna get, okay? The closer we're gonna get, the more light we're gonna get, and we're gonna be able to see the different greens and the different, if you, like I put a little bit of straw here to change it a little bit and not make it all green. You guys can add that as well. So we're gonna work with our greens first and our horizon line. Now, we're gonna work from dark to light. And one of the things that we're gonna do is, so this is why we don't need to wash. So to make green, we use blue, right? Blue and yellow. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna grab and put blue again. I'm gonna grab and put green. And I'm gonna have a tad of black, okay? Just a little tad, very little. I'm gonna, dark colors and blacks tend to be really strong and take over. So I rather build on it instead of letting it take over, okay? So this green for me, I don't know if you guys have several greens in your set or you have just the one green. 3 greens, awesome, you guys, I wish, awesome. Well, that's perfect. Now you're just making me jealous, that's not fair. So here, I'm gonna move my greens and make the colors like before. So I'm gonna add some blue to it. And see how I'm creating that deep green? But maybe that green is not dark enough yet. And I'm gonna add more blue to it. You see how they're building? We're building different tones, different varieties of green, using just blue. And at the end of the day, we can come to our black. But you see how it takes over really fast? So when we use black, we're gonna need to use a lot of color and very little so it doesn't take over. So we're going to work on dark greens at this point to start with. Don't worry if you have the white and you have the other blues there. We're just building on it. We can use them in our advantage when we're mixing. If we think it's too dark, we can actually pull a little bit from here and change it a little bit more, okay? When we have that, we're gonna add some flour. And before we start working on our green and we start working on our canvas board, I want you guys to get comfortable. The making of the green is a little bit different than the sky. It's a little bit more precise in the sense that if you make a big stroke at once, you're gonna have a big base for your tree, and it might be bigger than what you're hoping or what you're wanting to work. I don't know if you guys have a piece of paper, computer paper, any kind of paper that you might have there, or if you don't mind grabbing a little white piece of paper or any color. The reason I say this is because I think it's to just grab the paper, grab any of your greens, make your paste, and without, try it out. Maybe the angle you change of your brush, of your knife, you can use the precision of it you can build from it, okay? So just get used to how you would like to do and work with your greenery, okay? So how you position it is going to give you a different feel to it of what you guys want to do, okay? So just do a couple of tryouts, see what comes, see how you feel more comfortable. You're going to see that it's different from making the sky. The sky, we were looking for those big strokes, big brushes that come and swoop it away. So here we're going for more defined. If you guys really want to know, this was supposed to be a lot smaller, okay? So this is what I'm telling you. Just try it out, see how it feels. And when you feel comfortable and you feel that you found the angle that you would like to use your knife, that's when we go back and we work on it, okay? Another thing, if you guys, depending on the kind of tree or greenery that you guys want to do, you may want to start at the bottom and build yourself up. Or if you guys are making a pine, it's the other way around. You start at the top and then you start building from the top all the way down. Okay? So depending the kind of greenery you're envisioning, mix your greens, Try different greens. Remember, if we go outside and look at our trees, if we look at the bushes, they're not all the same green, not even in the same plant. Everything is the same color. And depending how the lights hits it, you're gonna have different tones on the same plant and different colors. So use your dark colors. You have all dark colors right now. We can add some light to it later. More than ever, use the texture in your advantage. Just like the eyebrows in his self-portraits that you can see they're like bushy and big and red. Use it so you can have that greenery shine. Don't worry if a little bit of what's underneath shows, because then there's that transparency of the branches that are not too full, okay? Now, these other trees that were in the back that were a little bit smaller, I'm gonna try and go a little bit darker, okay? Remember, you have the texture of the edge of your knife. Use it to your advantage. So work on your trees, have fun with them, shape them, make them bigger if you want. Remember, the eyes get tired, so look at it from afar. Come close again if you need it. And when you have it, the shape that you want it, we're gonna start working on our horizon line. And we're gonna go with darker, okay? So we want dark. I am just defining my horizon line. And making it a little bit thicker on the back so I can build on it, okay? Now, the reason why I'm gonna pull the color a little bit of my horizon line is because I wanna build on it and I wanna let it definition, okay? So if it's too thin, I won't be able to build on top of it and have this darker back there that gives that depth, okay? So let me know if you guys need anything. Let me know how you're going. If you're having fun with the process. So you know, you guys, art has a way of influencing life, and life at the same time has a way of influencing art. So Van Gogh died, couple of decades went by, and then his artwork was appreciated for what it was and was a foundation for modern art, like we'd said before. one of the lines that came from that is fauve. So fauvism is what we talked about at the beginning. It's a line that was basically from Henri Matisse, is one of the famous ones that you might recognize, and André Derain. And they basically had that big question that we were talking about at the beginning. Why does a grass have to be green? Why does the sky has to be blue? So they use the colors based more on emotion and most beastly. They wanted things to look more like a beast, more beastly, more of emotion, more to it than just the basic columns and the realism or the movement. And they had very strong colors. They are one of the bases of pop art in that conception of colors and strong combinations. So it's very interesting. Another one that came from it, that took from Post-Impressionism and from Van Gogh, one of them, is German Expressionism. German Expressionism wasn't just art. It was film, it was architecture, it was sculpture, and it was all just before the First World War and just before the beginning of the Second World War. So with that, I don't know if you ever saw The Golem, but it's a very old movie. And it's a horror film from the 1920s. Germany was, in the First World War, was completely closed off from the world. So they had their own cinema and their own art and their own architecture. And one of the big people that have been and have grabbed from that and have that influence is Tim Burton. And you can see it in his films, that dark side, shady, low lights, the shapes of the buildings. Everything is a little bit more spooky, a little bit more gosh to it. Another one is Alfred Hitchcock. Has a big influence from him. So it's amazing how one thing has rolled over the other from the decades and from the years go by, and we all grab a little bit of influence. So now that we have this, you guys, I think we're ready to start building. So we have our blues, and we're gonna start bringing light into it, okay? So I'm gonna grab a little bit more green. You guys have 3 greens, so you can play with your greens, okay? Play with your greens, but don't be afraid to alter them or change them, okay? So I'm gonna do 2 different things. One is I'm gonna use a regular green with the dark ones. So I start little by little making it lighter, okay? I don't want a super huge change all of a sudden. Not yet. I'm gonna do that later. So I'm grabbing a little bit of the dark and mixing it with this medium green I have here. I have some flour here. I'm gonna grab my flour. And I'm gonna start building that greenery, okay? So if you guys wanna make small strokes using the edge of your brush, it's a little bit dark, so I'm gonna make it lighter. I'm trying to use the edge to my advantage, okay? Even this side of the knife with a little, so I'm not going all the way up. I am just starting to build, leaving a darker side on top, okay? I'm gonna make it lighter now. I can also use the other side of the knife and see how that feels. Also, to give it movement, I'm going to one side to the other, making sure they're all not on the same direction. And since I don't have a lighter green that you guys have, which is awesome, I'm gonna start building my greenery. And I'm gonna start building it. Instead of making a lighter tone, I wanna go into a more lemony green, okay? Little by little. So the way I'm gonna do it, and the way you guys can play with it, is with yellow, okay? Too much yellow, but that's okay. I'm having fun with my colors here. Okay. And I'm gonna have some flour, so I can pull my flour as I go, okay? So I'm making a lighter green. And I'm gonna grab some flour. And I'm gonna start coming in. Now, another thing that it's important is, so I'm gonna do my line here so you guys see the difference in the change of greens. One is I'm gonna give space to that path that I wanted to do. So I'm gonna pull it up a little bit. Also, there are parts where my greenery from one spot will come down. And I might want to get some light to some parts of my trees. I know they're far away and they're darker, but just a few steps now and there is gonna bring it some light and give it some depth. Another thing we can think about is how the bottom of the tree has less light because it has more, is more dense, and the top of the tree has less density, so there's more light coming through, and having more light coming through is gonna become a little bit lighter, okay? So you might want to give some light, some few strokes, not much. Oh, that light green. Over there, okay? Then again, I'm gonna keep building my color. I'm gonna go more lemony. Another way you can do it is you can add more white, but if you add more white, you're gonna get the effect that we had on top, which is more of pastel color to it. So it's a lighter tone. If I see that it's not enough change from what I want, I can always add a little bit more. And if it's getting too watery, add a little bit more of your flour. You can not necessarily have to go through all of it. You can go by parts. So there's parts that are going to be a little bit lighter, some parts that are not. You can also change direction, and instead of doing the wheat like that, you can actually do grass, and you can use your knife and the serrated part to do a different texture to it. If you want, you can change the color a little bit. I grabbed a little bit of my blues that I had, baby blues that I had there, that had white on it. So I'm using my knife and the shape and the texture I can get from it. About how I want to change, because maybe up down there, there's not tall grass anymore. Maybe here is a little edge when you can get close to the water or to the path. And you want to change the texture of it. So I'll give you a few minutes so you guys can work on that part. Let me know if you need anything. Is there anything I can do? Any question I can answer for you? That's what I'm here for, and happy to do so, and happy to be here with you guys. And also, who would have thought was going to give you a connection between Tim Burton and Van Gogh, right? But there is one. If your hands are in a complete disaster, you can either enjoy it, or if you can't and want to go wash your hands, please go ahead. Mine are a complete mess. You know, this is also a moment where you can go back and think, I have a little bit of dark here and I can bring it down here and give it some extra oomph that I didn't think of before. Go for those little details. And like I said, stepping away from it sometimes and just looking at it opens up the way you see it, okay? Now, something that you guys might have figured out at this point definitely is it takes a couple of days to dry. So you might want to leave it with paper towels underneath in a place where nobody can touch it. If there are kids around the house or pets, I would recommend a higher option. And just give it a chance for it to dry completely. The canvas board that you guys are working on is a 9x12, which if you guys want to frame it, you'll be easy to find one in Michael's or AC Moore. If you guys would like to change colors, you can always do grass or wheat. You can always do dirt, okay? Play around with your colors, see what you come up with, what you want to change. If you guys don't like it, just take it off your knife and try again in another part of your plate. You can always go back to your paper, your practice paper, and see what other texture. If I go like this, it looks like grass. If you go like this, it can be little cobblestones, right? You can use it and make it wide and use that wideness and that texture. Or you can go deeper and scratch it with your knife and use it with your advantage. So don't be afraid to take a moment, grab your extra piece of paper and just try different things. See what, if you use your edge, you can make tall grass. Or this can even be tall stems for flowers. Remember the little one I showed you guys that we did with kids? You can add little spots of color and you can have a row of flowers that go around. Even they can go up in the sky and the air is bringing the petals around. But here, let me show you and let me leave there a few minutes so you guys can see the different textures that you can play with using your knife. And that's why we like using those knives a lot. It gives you more options. Let the texture build and let the colors build. So now that we have that, you guys keep working. I'm just going to add a little something. So I'm thinking of my path, right? And how I would like my path. So at this point, if you guys don't have a clean brush, you can wash through your brush. If you have another clean brush, just grab the new one, okay? And I'm gonna try a soft sand color. So to get my color, I have white, and I'm gonna try to build it with the brown that I have to the tone that I would like, okay? And see if I need a little bit more yellow. I see a lot of red undertones that I'm trying to avoid with that sand color. Until I get the color that I would like, okay? Another great thing about oil pastels and also impasto is that you can build on top. So if you didn't do a path and now you would like to add one, you can actually do it. You can go on top. Nothing's gonna happen. And this time I am gonna clean my brush a little bit. I might dip it in the water just a tad. So I can, it doesn't have to be perfect. Because remember, there can be a little grass in between the sand, right? So it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to take the excess of the green off, okay? So I'm gonna grab my flour. I'm gonna put it to the side so I can give it the consistency that I want. And then I'm gonna start working on my cobblestones. So maybe they're cobblestones, maybe they are, it's sand. So I don't know, maybe you guys decided that you wanted to do a river there, or maybe you guys don't have one at all, or it's a different shape. So I picked up a little bit too much green there. I'm gonna clean it. And you can work your path or your open space. Like I said, you don't need to have one. If you do, it gives you another dimension. You have the tall grass in the back, the background, you have your sky, you have your short grass with a little bit of stumps, and then you have a path. So it gives you another texture to it. It gives you another layer to it, but it's not necessarily. It's depending on the kind of landscape you guys are envisioning. And the kind of landscape you would like to present. Now remember I had blue that had fall. You see I go over it, and that's the great thing about impasto. It will cover it completely. Now, as I go with it, I feel it's a little bit too flat. It's all the same color, and it's too flat. But I'm gonna give it all the same base, okay? I'm gonna build on it with some brown. So remember, we need just a tiny bit. It's better to build little by little. And again, I'm not gonna put it everywhere. And I'm gonna build on it again. As I go deeper into the smaller and the far side of the path, I'm gonna make it darker, okay? Remember, it's far away. It's getting smaller because of perspective, and we can see less of it. So it's gonna become darker and darker. Again, I'm gonna grab some more brown. I'm gonna build on it. A few of the dark ones in front. But then we have more dark cobblestones in the back. Or pieces of sand that is darker, or little rocks. Always looking for that depth of color. As we work through it, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys a few more minutes for that. We're almost there with time. If you have any questions, any comments, I'm more than happy to answer.
I have a question.
Sure, go for it.
So I like my painting, but I feel like I did 2 separate paintings. Do you have any suggestions?
Do you mind bringing it up so I can see?
Yeah. So they both turned out very differently.
Oh, I love it. I see. Well, you know what? What I would do, I would incorporate a little bit of the lighter green, just a hint here and there on the left side. And I would bring a little bit of the dark onto the right side. A few like tall grasses that have the same texture as your left side. So grab that left side, grab the same texture that you did, and just bring a few on this side. Like if you had bunches of that kind of grass growing in there, and that's gonna integrate it. Part of it, to be honest, I feel like there's a knoll that is close to you and the other one is further out. So that's why it's darker. So you just need to bring that, like I remember when I did that, I brought a little bit of the light up here and then I brought a little bit of the dark down here again.
Yeah.
That's gonna give you that mix that you're using. I love the sky though. Super cool. Those purples, I love it.
So you can put it back on mute.
Now I'll give you guys a little tip. In general, when you're working with art, or my mom used to be in the garden club for like 21 years and she competed and everything. When they did these amazing arrangements and everything, your eyes get tired. So when they were working for a special occasion, they would always have the sample for days because they built on it. And it's something I learned throughout my years in college as well. When you're working on something and it's creative, sometimes you get a little bit stuck or you're not sure what's missing, but your eye's telling you that something is missing. So just forget about it. Don't see it. And the next day, see it with a new light. See it with your favorite cup of coffee or tea. And see it in the morning light. And you're gonna, the first thing that catches you, you're gonna say, aha, here is what's bothering me. I will let you guys have I will put my email here in the chat. If you guys wanna shoot me an email with a picture and have questions and wanna change something to it, please do. I'm more than happy to answer. But sometimes it's just that little combination that you grab a little bit of the dark and you brought it down here to make a few snaps. And then you brought a little bit of the light and you brought it up here to make a few details. And that's gonna give you that mix that you guys want, that it's one piece, cohesive, and not too separated, okay? I don't know if you can see it there better. Let me put it. No, I'm trying to see where you guys can see it. So just bring in the colors. I'm mixing them. It's gonna mix it up a little bit more, okay? Hey, and tomorrow when it's dry, if you want to add something, you don't like it, grab a wipey. It works. I love it. That's awesome. I love the water, the yellow flowers that you have going on there. That is super cool.
Thank you so much. You've been an excellent teacher.
Thank you.
I'm very amateurish, and I've been to some of these guided, painting sessions because I really love doing it. By far, you've been, the best in actually teaching us, how to go about it step by step, and giving us so much valuable information. So thank you
so much. I was so nervous, you guys, to work with adults. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. If you don't believe it, I'm also an amateur. I'm an architect. I'm not an artist, but I love art.
Well, I do too, and I teach computer science, so
there you go.
Nowhere close to art. So.
But it's a good outlet, and I think nowadays we all need it, right? Something to relax and to go into our little bubble and enjoy.
Yeah, so absolutely. So thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. And I love the painting. I really do.
Thank you.
I enjoy it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Belen. Thank you, everyone, for participating. If there are any questions,